you read the flyer, everybody reads their emails today. The theme of this evening of the Joy and Jerry Monkarsh Rosh Hashanah Live is finding balance. But I'm actually here to inform you that there is no such thing as balance. There's no such thing in balance in your work. There's no such thing as balance in your time management. And certainly there is no such thing as balance in your relationships.
There's a place that you may know in London called the School of Life. I don't know if anyone's heard of it before. Now the School of Life has branches all over the world, but this is an organization that offers classes on life's most difficult topics. And of course, the most popular classes have to deal with relationships. And one class starts off with an exercise, and if you'll indulge me, I'd like to offer that exercise with all of us tonight. So how many people here on Erev Rosh Hashanah, raise your hand if you think you are easy to live with. Wow. Okay, I see who we're dealing with here. Then the professor would ask his students, now tell me, those who did not raise their hands, why are you difficult to live with? And I want you to think to yourself, even if you raised your hand, why am I difficult to live with? And his students answered in lots of different ways. I want you to think of the way that you might answer. But his students answered with examples like, I'm moody, I'm loud, I always load the dishwasher a certain way, and they don't like how I load the dishwasher, I'm messy. Of course, no one is like that here.
No one.
No one. Then the professor follows with, raise your hand if you want to be loved for exactly who you are. Now raise your hand if you want to be loved for exactly who you are. Oy. Because the professor says, shame on all of us, because we have work to do. How can you possibly be loved for exactly who you are? We've got to grow. That's why we're here. We have to develop. Think about his response. It's so Jewish. It's exactly why we're here on the high holy days. Because honestly, we shouldn't be asking to be loved for exactly who we are today. We should be asking to be loved for whom we want to be.
Doesn't mean that we're going to achieve it all. We can be moody. We must be moody. We can be irritable, messy, loud, withdrawn, or angry. All of those things that make us difficult to live with. But we are asking to be loved because we are still willing to try. In the relationships that you cherish the most, are you still willing to try? Rabbi Guzik and I started working together in 2013, a decade, which only feels like a day.
Oh, good.
I was going to say a century, but a day. Our daughter was 2 years old and our middle son was just born. Until that point, I was an assistant rabbi in the valley in Woodland Hills, and Rabbi Guzik was an assistant here. And during the week, I used to commute 5 days a week to the valley. And on Shabbat, we were in separate communities. It was fine. Until one Shabbat, our daughter came to me and said, Abba, isn't it about time that you go to my synagogue? It's a true story. She's 11 today and sitting right there. And it was at that time that she asked us that question that we realized that we should think about what it meant to work together. And so we've been working together at Sinai Temple for now 10 years, but this is our first year serving as your co-senior rabbis. So one of the questions we are asked the most is, how is it working with your spouse? But the question that is not asked, which people are thinking is, when you spend so much time with your spouse, how do you not kill each other? And for that, Rabbi Guzik will answer.
So are we talking about not killing each other on Monday, Tuesday, or 2 hours ago? Because let's admit, everyone has days and moments and hours like this. But we have to tell you, balance is something we never set out to achieve. Rather, perhaps the key to any relationship, whether it's partner or parents or grandparents, children, siblings, friends, co-workers, congregants, we think the key is perhaps not crashing the teeter-totter. Because when you think of a teeter-totter, on some days, one person flies high in the air with the other person supporting their adventures. And other times, the opposite person is holding strong, watching their loved one soar. And as two rabbis married to each other and two rabbis who work with each other, we fall off that teeter-totter all the time. But instead of choosing to solely critique each other's weaknesses, we choose every day, and we try to uphold each other's strengths. But we also choose to take the time, as we are this evening, to look within ourselves and ask, in our relationships, am I only criticizing him? Am I only criticizing you? Am I only criticizing them? The question we have to ask ourselves tonight is, how much growing am I truly willing to do?
Rosh Hashanah is not about making somebody else change. Doing a cheshbon hanefesh, the introspection of our soul, is not that gentle reminder to our loved ones that the chores consistently are not getting done. It's a two-way street here. This time of year is about first looking inside ourselves and asking, how can I honor the dreams of those who I love? Have I named those changes that I need to make so we fall less, and together we rise more? When someone's dreams are ignored, that partnership falls short. When someone else's story pushes forward, the other story lags behind.
We want you to think about the story of Joseph in the Torah. If you remember, Joseph is Jacob's beloved youngest son. And Joseph has the most vivid of dreams. And Joseph goes up to his brothers and says, I have the best dream I want to share with you. In my dream, the sun and the moon and 11 stars, they all bow down to me. 11 stars, 11 brothers. And what we're told is after Joseph shares the contents of his dreams, well, his brothers, they hated him even more. And one of the medieval commentators, Sforno, says, what was he thinking? Joseph, this was an ill-advised move. If Joseph had been more mature, he would have kept the contents of his dream to himself. But after reading the story and rereading the commentary, we have to say we disagree. One should never hold back from sharing the contents of their dreams with the ones they love. But imagine if the story looked a little different. And after Joseph shared his dreams with his brothers, he went back to his brothers and said to them, now tell me, what do you dream for yourself? Psychologist Dr. Stephen Eisenstadt calls this dream tending. He says to dream tend is to allow a dream to unfold, to let ourselves awaken to something anew. Living is letting our dreams come alive, not holding back, and not waiting until our head hits the pillow to discover what kinds of dreams are going on in our minds, but instead letting our dreams unfold in the here and in the now.
Imagine asking your loved ones, what dreams have you yet to share? And in which ways can I make myself better so that your dream can grow? Instead of asking to be loved for who we are, ask to be loved for who we want to be, for whom we are trying to be, and then we have to try, not to try to achieve balance, but try to help those we love find their footing in this very complicated, muddy, and messy world.
A great rabbinic thinker, Rabbi Israel Salanter, he was once spending the night in a shoemaker's home. And it was the middle of the night, and he couldn't understand why. It's almost midnight. He couldn't understand why the shoemaker was continuing to work. He was astounded, especially when he looked at the shoemaker and he realized that this man was continuing to work by the slight flickering of a candle that was about to go out. And so Rabbi Salanter quietly walked over to the shoemaker and said, I just have to ask you, do you realize how late it is? The candle's about to go out. Why are you continuing to work? But the shoemaker slowly turned to face the rabbi. And with a soulful smile, he replied, as long as the candle is burning, there is still time to mend. And for weeks after, people could hear Rabbi Salanter repeating those words over and over again. As long as the candle is burning, there is still time to mend.
Tonight is Erev Rosh Hashanah, but it is also Friday evening, it is Shabbat. And every Shabbat we sing the words of Lecha Dodi, a love song between the people and God. A love song that reminds us that there is certainly still time to mend our relationships with God and our relationships with each other. For as long as we love, it is still possible to look inward.
As long as we love, it is still possible to identify our flaws.
As long as we love, it is still possible to grow.
And as long as we love, it's still possible to dream.
Our dear friends of Sinai Temple, on this Rosh Hashanah, as the candle continues to burn, let us not be afraid to turn towards each other.
Let us not be afraid to mend, to grow, to love, and to dream. Shana Tova.